The surprising thing is insurance is still very misunderstood, and also obviously the other aspect is that it's also mistrusted. And the problem we have is the awareness of insurance is not very wide. So as an industry, we're not doing much to increase the penetration. All we are doing is we are selling to the same lot of people, the urban dweller, in the middle income person. We are not selling to anybody else who need insurance. We are not selling to people like, we're trying to get to the farming community, the pastoralist and so on. But we need to make them understand that insurance is beneficial to them and they have to be aware of it. But at the same time, what is happening is that the covers that we have crafted do not explain the benefits that go to the individual, and at the same time how they can safeguard their property, their assets, their lives, and income by taking out insurance. If you look at our penetration is 3%, South Africa is 15%. And the thing is, South Africa is perhaps the most developed market for insurance in the world. The per capita premium paid by a South African for life insurance is the highest in the world. And we, our per capita for insurance, all types of insurance, is hardly $20 or $30 per person. Now, the thing is that in South Africa, they are selling products in different ways. There are church schemes where people insure through churches, and they get covers. Then there are funeral benefit covers, which are done through the funeral parlors. And the thing is that what is happening in places like South Africa or even Ghana is that the cultural habits of the community have been made insurable quite easily. So what would happen is, say for example, a funeral in Ghana is a very elaborate affair and very expensive. So insurers have gone in and given big covers. But here in Kenya, if you look at a funeral, what happens is, however rich a person is, for example, if there is a death in my family, I know I can afford the whole of the funeral requirements from my own resources. But what happens is, all my friends will come, all our friends will come and donate and contribute. It is a done thing. So even if I had that insurance cover, the contributions will still come. So how do we get people to understand that take out a 500,000 shillings funeral cover from APA Life, and that will take care of most of your funeral needs. And perhaps what like people do in other cultures and so on, is they say, don't send flowers, contribute to a local charity. So what would happen is that we insure you for 500,000 shillings, up to 500,000 shillings, which will take care of most of the needs of the funeral. The other area that I think we are very bad, insurers have tried to do it, but as Kenyans, we are very, I think we are non-committal, and we still consider the extended family as a part of our insurance when things go wrong. Now, everybody in Kenya can get health cover. So what happens is that if you have adequate health cover for yourself, for your family, for your parents, then what it needs is that the insurance company will take care of the immediate health bills that come. So what happens is, in Kenya, we still do not want to get that health cover. When we are hospitalized, everybody's running around trying to get contributions to pay the hospital bill. So where do we, the problem is, where do we come in? Is it insurers that are not doing enough, or is it as a community we are not even interested, and we just think that we will not fall ill, and if we do fall ill, our friends and family will raise that money for the hospital. That I think partly I agree with you that perhaps we are not, we have not got the entry point, and perhaps the entry point, we have not got the entry point is because what we feel is that it is a hard one to crack, a hard nut to crack. What we are doing is that as a APA insurance, we do a lot of health insurance. We are the third largest health insurer in the country. So what we have now decided is that forget about the corporate health. Every corporate, most corporate will take out insurance covers for their staff. But what happens to the family and what happens to the uninsured? So as APA insurance, what we are doing is that we are now aiming to tell the individual and the family that we will give you health cover. And we've been doing health covers up to 75 years of age for the last 7-8 years. We were the first ones to give cover up to 75 years when everybody stops at about 60 or 65 years. So what we are doing is that we are going into the marketplace with a campaign to tell people that take out health cover for your family, and including that your parents or grandparents, depending on how old they are. So that what happens is that there is always some cover available in case of need. Then the other thing what we are doing is that we are also trying to give health cover to the people who cannot, the Juakali. And for the Juakali, what we are doing is that we are bringing in low covers, say up to 100,000 shillings. And then up to, so that what would happen is that when it will take care of the immediate needs for that health cover. So 100,000 is can be up to for outpatient, and 1 million shillings can be for inpatient. But the thing is that what we need to do is we need to make sure that we change our distribution channels. So we're trying out now an online sales strategy. Everything will be through this marketing will be through newspapers, print media, but very limited, but more on the website, more on Twitter, and hopefully we will see what effect we have. So the aim is to sell through a different channel. In Kenya, I think fraud has become an industry. That's the unfortunate part. What has happened is that a normal person, who is a normal person in the general public is not really geared up for fraud. But what has happened is, I think, maybe because of the way our society is, a lot of corruption, a lot of wrong things happening. A lot of people now entertain, not entertain, but a lot of people want to enrich themselves by doing the wrong things. So what has happened is that when an insurer wants to, for me, I would rather insure 1,000 people from a group, in a group, knowing very well that out of the 1,000 there will be 10, 15 deaths or 10, 15 claims. That should be the norm. But what happens is in Kenya is that certain areas, when you go and insure a large number of people, what they have done is that they have actually combined just to make sure that they can agree to, they can get claims from insurance companies. So they have become, they know the methodology that we go through, the claims that we go through. So, they will actually connive to be able to claim from an insurance company. Now, if we had, suppose if we, one of the areas that we could look at is all these benevolent societies that are there in Kenya. For us to ensure that benevolent society is very easy, because we know that the benevolent society has got X number of members, and we know how much we have to pay. So, and they can, they will look after certain aspects of the fraud. They, because they are not, they also have to look after to make sure that premiums are correct, that they do not go up. So they will not entertain fraudulent claims, from their own members. We've had, we have dealt with groups. A lot of groups that we have dealt with, we have found that it's quite easy to insure those groups, because the group themselves manage the aspects of claims. So they themselves will, if they think that the claim is wrong for any reason, they will say that this claim is not payable. But what is happening is that when a group is formed through certain individuals who specialize in making fraudulent claims, then the insurance companies can get burnt, and that's why we do not trust, perhaps ourselves as well, to insure this group of people. One area that I think we have become a lot more demanding on how we can insure is, say, the private car business. As APA, we lost 385 million shillings last year on private car insurance. We wrote about 1.6 billion, and we lost 385. That's a big loss. But as an industry, the whole industry, we lost nearly 3.8 billion shillings on private car insurance. Now, how can private car insurance make losses of this kind? No, we know the problem that we have is that it's a whole chain that is working against the insurance industry. And the insurance industry, I think, seriously needs to look at itself to decide why are we allowing this? The garages, the assessors, the agents, everybody is making money from that private car claim that comes in. The insured doesn't even know that his claim, which might be worth 50,000, is being paid for by the insurers at 250,000. Goes up 5 times. And everybody in the chain gets money. And unfortunately, also our staff are involved. So we have, right now a big scam going against the insurance sector. And unfortunately, as I said earlier on, is we as insurers are accepting it. We are not even willing to take steps to stop it. 2017, hopefully our investment performance might be very similar to 2016, because what has happened is that because of the fall in the interest rate cap has not helped us. We used to earn in bank deposits at last year before the interest rate cap of around about 10%, 11%, or 12%, depending on which bank required liquidity and so on. So they used to give us higher deposit rates and so on. Now, rarely do you find, there are banks which give you 10%, but then these are the banks where we are not allowed to deposit any money, because the liquidity of those banks is in question. And the big banks where we could put our money will not give us more than 7%. And some of them don't even want that money. But so what has happened is that we have moved a lot of our deposits into treasury bills and treasury bonds. But then that treasury bills and treasury bonds, if you have noticed, the central bank is quietly putting a cap. They announce an auction. The auction takes place, and they say they will only accept a bid to a certain amount. Yeah, so they ignore all of those of us who have applied, bid at a very high amount. So they say no, And then 2 weeks later, the central bank then puts that same bond on a tap at the rate that they had announced. So what happens is we reluctantly have to go and buy that. We have to put money in that bond at that rate. We might have bid nearly 14% in real terms, but the central bank stops, it's at 13%. So what happens is then we have to now go and, say a second in the tap cell and buy it at tap cell at about 13%. So, but like the group, we have now, I think 90% of our money will be in 90% of our deposits will be in government paper. So the government has got a lot of our money, and government is hungry for money, but central bank is now using different techniques to give that ceiling on that investment, on